What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. I am your host, JT. We are live on Facebook and YouTube. We are live at those two locations every other Wednesday at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you are watching on YouTube, please don't forget to click that like and that subscribe button, and also hit that notification bell so that you are notified every time we go live. We are brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. And don't forget to hit shop.nerfherdercouncil.com so that you can get customizable Nerf Herder Council swag. Let's bring AJ on. I just have one question. I have a question for you before we start.
Sure, what's that?
What's your pleasure, sir? had to do it right off the bat. The cheesy Hellraiser knock there. So, yeah. So this is
in my headcanon. In my headcanon, there's a tie-in between Gremlins and Hellraiser, and it's that guy.
Wow. Okay.
He reminds me of the shopkeeper that gave the Mogwai. So
he
in
sells,
my head,
he sells Mogwai and Le Marchand's box.
Sure, why not?
Okay.
I mean, they both cause chaos and destruction.
Well, now we have to compare which is better, like the Gremlins franchise of the first two movies or Hellraiser. And how are they similar? Discuss. So this is going to be an interesting episode because we're talking about one of my favorite horror movies and what's called a reimagining, according to Hulu. And it just came out on Friday. So this thing hasn't even been out a week, so I've watched it twice. There's Mimar. Good to see you. Says, he can have all of my money, so you're going to buy Mogwai and Le Marchand's box. So what you're going to do is you're going to have a bunch of gizmos running around getting carved up by chains and hooks. That's gross, Mimar. Gizmo is cute. Don't be doing that. That's gross. But yeah, so we had this idea for a while once I saw that, the new Hellraiser reimagining, as they're calling it, was coming out on Hulu last week. So again, full disclosure, there's some D&D. Mimar says that she is chaotic neutral. That's funny. Oh my God. Kale McLeish, good to see you, man. He says, spoiler alert, Hellraiser will win this showdown. How prophetic of you, buddy. Yeah. How prophetic. So I've watched the new one twice. I actually just finished my second viewing about 20 minutes ago. And I absolutely love the original, the 1987, as well as the sequel. But we're not talking about the sequel for this one. I'm sure we might, touch on it a little bit. But so my first impression of the remake, I hated it. So
predictably, it's
yeah. I was blasting it on Facebook, admittedly. And obviously I had to rewatch it again because I was like, well, I must be missing something. And also I wanted to know a little bit more about it for, doing this episode. And I have to say that I liked it a lot more the second time through, but I still think it's lacking a lot of stuff that makes the original cool. So, like I said, I love the first Hellraiser movie. I know some people think it's kind of campy and stuff, but it's always been one of my all-time favorites. So I do have that predilection towards that one. So maybe I could be accused of being a little biased in this. But where do you stand with Hellraiser? Like, do you enjoy it? How much have you watched the originals to like have a kind of like a base knowledge on this new one? Or
All right. As we were texting after your first viewing, not your second one, I actually texted you and I was like, we might have to pivot to another topic here because it's not a very good conversation when both people have the exact same opinion, especially when it's a negative one.
Right.
Now, I have not watched it a second time. I made it through the movie with 3 separate viewings because first one I ran out of time and the second 2 I fell asleep. So that's kind of damning right there, I think.
Okay.
I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan overall, but I will say after rewatching the original Hellraiser again, the gulf between them is not as far as I thought.
Okay. That's kind of where I landed as well. I like that the remake has a bunch of gore in it. I like that they didn't go light on that.
Mm-hmm.
Our buddy DQ, even though it's not showing up on this stupid thing, Avery the baby said hi. I just met John Godfrey's daughter in the dog pound the other day. So what's up, Avery? Good to see you. Yeah, I will say that I was glad that it could have been gorier, obviously, because one of the things that I love about the original Hellraiser is that it's pretty nasty. It's pretty brutal. And I like that. I mean, they didn't go as far in the remake, but it was still pretty bad. If you're talking about just like a made for Hulu movie or made for Netflix or whatever. So I like that they didn't shy away from the gore. So that part was cool because I was afraid that they were going to soften up on that. And then to me, that just would have really taken away from the story because part of what makes, Hellraiser cool is that it's brutal. I mean, it's violent and, especially the first couple, they are just like, how much gore can we show? How much, viscera and blood and, bodies tearing apart like can we show? So where do you stand on gore in horror movies? Because personally, the gorier the better for me. I like when it's all nasty and shitty and just people getting chopped up. Like, I'm a fan.
I like gore in general. I mean, that's what we're watching the horror movies for. But it's got to be delivered the right way. I actually feel like the original Hellraiser, this is also 35 years in retrospect, so special effects being what they are. But I think they did the gore better in the new one. It felt more visceral to me because like when the razor wire comes out or the hooks go in, like it just looks so much more believable than the effects back in the 80s did. So I felt like that and the sound mix on them was like it was hard to listen to a little bit, and it was perfect that way. Like it was just that right amount of uncomfortable. Like one of the best gore scenes I always think of when I think of horror movies is in Saw 3 or 4. I think it's 3 where Jigsaw has the brain tumor and he makes one of the characters do brain surgery on him. And they like have the drill going into the skull, like as part of like getting the skull plate away so the tumor can be cut away. And it's like just like it's uncomfortably close, it's uncomfortably detailed, it's drawn out, like it's not just like a flash and here's your stuff. And the sound is just that drill going in, it's just gives me the shivers. So like that's like gore done right, and I feel like 2022 Hellraiser came close. It came real close. The original, it looks really cheesy and dated by modern standards. So there was plenty of it. It was just on the delivery of it.
Okay. I was actually watching the original while I was cooking dinner tonight, and I think that for 80s gore, it looks pretty damn good. I mean, obviously it's not perfect or anything, but I mean, there's a lot worse stuff out there. I mean, I really thought that it was done well. but to your point, it's not great. So, I mean, thank God they did the gore better in 2022 because they better have.
Yeah.
I mean, if it would have been like about the same old thing, you're like, geez, oh, Pete, what kind of budget does this thing have?
Yeah, the hooks
So-
going into to that rubber flesh in the 80s, that was
Yeah.
like, you're not fooling anybody with that stuff. Come on now.
Yeah.
That was pretty bad, but I think okay, so here's what I'll say about the 87 one that works. There's just a mood about the whole thing. So everything that happens just hits different. So I think it gets a pass on some of its shortcomings because it just envelops the watcher more. Like when something goes down, you're just ready for it. Whereas the new one is just meh. It looks pretty.
That I'm glad you mentioned that because I was going to bring that up. I think that the overall tone of the original is much better. I mean, you could say that it's because it's based directly off the book. It's like, and I've read the book. It's based off a kind of like a novella by Clive Barker called "The Hellbound Heart," and it's almost word for word the same. The movie is to the book. That having been said, I just, the whole reason that I love Hellraiser is because of that mood that you're talking about in the 1987 version. It's just dreary and dark, and it just never lets up. I mean, the movie starts out with Frank getting the box, and then it's just him sitting in a square of candles, and then he's messing with the box, and you see the blue light come through the walls. And then all of a sudden, like, hooks go into him, and you're like, ah, and you're like, oh my God, what the hell was that? And then it shows the room with all the chains hanging and the chunks of flesh and shit everywhere. You're like, what the hell am I watching? And then it goes just to a present day, like normal. You're like, oh God. So you've got this like specter of what is coming, like hanging over the rest of the movie. And it's just this sense of, ugh, like, what am I going to be watching here? Like, and I love that about it. It's just so dark. And there's never like that happy moment. Like even at the end, oh, we got out of the house. Well, the house collapses on itself. And then, the creepy, homeless guy turns into a bone dragon dude and flies away with the box. And then, somebody else gets the box. Like, God bless America. Like, it's just, that movie is just a downer the whole way through. And I love the vibe of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, it's,
sorry, you were not
no,
done
no,
yet,
no.
so
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
We're doing better about not talking over each other.
I know.
Yeah, you're right. Like, it's a little bit jarring though. So the weird thing for me is that, see, I hate to keep crapping on stuff. I very much stay on what I like, but the one thing that I noticed this time with the 87 one, is that the continuity is just all over the place. Like, it just jumps from one thing to another. Like, he gets the box, then he's immediately doing the seance. You're like, what? Why? Where are you? What happened? And then the hooks come out of nowhere. I'm like, okay. So right off the bat, you don't know what the hell's going on. Okay. And then it just kind of like jumps from scene to scene a lot. Like, it's really weird that way. Like, I'm still not really sure. Where are they? Is this America or England?
I think it's America.
Okay. Yeah, I thought so based on the number of American accents, but Julia's British, and they talk about how Brooklyn was like no good, but it seems like they still might be in New York.
That's the way I've always read it.
So it's just a different part of the same city, I guess, that they moved to. They made it seem like it was a lot farther out than that. Like it was hard for, I've got IMDb pulled up to name the characters from the new one, and I don't have it for the original. The daughter, anyway.
Kirsten,
yeah. So Kirsten, it sounds like it's like really hard for her to like come out to the house, and she's too busy, and it's like a big imposition. But if it's just across town, like what's the big deal? So that's why I always think, and the house like doesn't look like any house I recognize, so I assume it's like an old British house. It's just like nothing in there really like reminds me of a city that I've seen in America. So that's why I was thinking like maybe it's over in Britain, and that's why everything is weird. But I don't know.
Maybe they did that on purpose. Like, where are we? Is this America? Is this England? Or maybe they're building up the whole. This could be anywhere. I don't know.
Yeah, like okay, so Frank dies in that room, right? That's where all the bad juju is focused, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he either bought that somewhere in the city or went overseas somewhere, found the creepy dude, bought the box, and then flew all the way back with it and went up in the room and did the seance, and none of that was shown. It was just like, here's him getting the box, here's him getting his skin ripped off. That was it. Like,
yeah.
Okay. I feel like there's some stuff going on in between those two scenes.
Well, my buddy Shane says original 1,000,000,000%. He is not a fan of the remake. Okay, so we got one vote for the original from Shane. Well, I mean, but think, what are they going to show? You know, he gets the box, and you're like, okay, now he's going through customs. Now he's getting on a plane. Now he is taking a taxi to the house. Like, I mean, it's what does that have to do with anything? So
at least like a little bit of setup, like going into the house, or yeah, just instead it's just he's already in the candles. He's already knows what to do. Like something to set it up at least a little bit. I don't know. Like I said, maybe I'm just being too picky here.
they set up the whole damn thing with him getting ripped apart by a bunch of like demons. That's not enough setup for you. You have to see whether he flew business class or coach. like,
hey, those things are very important to me these days.
Oh man, that's yeah. I mean I get what you're saying, but I mean to me, like I said, just the air of the whole thing is I don't think you need that setup. I think just get right to it. Dude's got a box, hooks come out, tear him apart. Okay, then you're like, what the hell? Now we're gonna find out what the hell.
Yeah.
So
one thing I'd like to know is the budget of the original, because it seems like it was like one take everything. Sometimes the scenes are acted out. I'm like, that could have been done better. They probably didn't have time, which means they probably didn't have money for more film.
I don't think it was
point
huge.
across. It's just the original especially gives me the impression that like they were just trying to get you from one bit of story and gore to the next, and like even by horror movie standards in the 80s, the acting was not the best. It was creepy, but it's not going to win any awards. You're not going to see that at the Oscars, you know?
Yeah. So Shane says that the budget for the original was only $1 million. Are you sure about that? That even for like a horror movie in the mid 80s that no one really knew much about it seems kind of low. Yeah, I mean, I didn't pay attention to the acting, admittedly, because it is creepy. Like I say, I think that there's just such a vibe to this movie that I don't really nitpick it a ton for things you would normally nitpick a movie, because it's like it's unique in its delivery and everything, and like I mean the whole thing basically happens in that one house. There, how many exterior shots are there? There's the shot in the pet shop where the homeless dude is eating the grasshoppers. There's a couple things of Kirsty outside, Kirsten or whatever, Kirsty outside. Like, I called her Kirsten earlier.
Kirstie Alley, yeah,
Kirsty, goddamn fool. Anyway, so it's basically all in this house, and it's, and hell, I mean, even the resurrection is like they couldn't even go that far in the movie compared to how it is in the book, because in the book, it starts out with him getting the box, and he the son, he does all this. It's like a ritual. He's not just playing with the box and candles. Like he lays out like all this stuff. Like he collected his own piss for like weeks in case they wanted him to like degrade himself or something. Like all this different stuff. Like and it was this big ritual. So when they come, they it's very descriptive in the beginning of the book, which I would highly recommend the book. The audiobook's only like a 6-hour listen or something like that. It's not very long. And I mean, it's really, really good. But basically, like he ends up like it describes all of the sensation that he's going through, and it's like every little extreme that you could possibly imagine, and it makes him how do I phrase this?
Climax.
Yes. And it gets on the floor, and that's what ends up, like, basically his DNA being in there is what kind of resurrects him. They don't really show what the hell happens with, in the movie. It's just like, oh, there's blood and he died in here, so he comes back. Well, in the novel, it's like, well, part of him was still in the room.
Okay, I feel like that is actually like pertinent information because they talk about like
Yeah.
all the sensations you can feel, and it's like you just ripped him to shreds. Like it didn't take very long. He didn't feel very much, at least not for very long, and it sure wasn't pleasant. Like, I don't care how much BDSM you're into or live suspensions or anything, that didn't look like any fun whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, the way it's described in the book is really cool, and like I say, it goes through all kinds of, different. The way they describe it, like it's talking about like the teeniest morsel of like food stuck in his teeth from his dinner the night before, all of a sudden tasted like he was being choked with an entire platter of that food, and it goes even more extreme than that. Like, they actually describe it, and you're like, oh my God, like, and then he kind of like passes out or something or whatever, and then when he wakes up, one of the Cenobites is like, oh good, you're awake, now we can begin. And that's how the whole thing starts, and then it gets moving, so
Damn.
obviously they couldn't show him climaxing on the floor in the movie, but yeah, I thought that was pertinent too, because it makes it make a little more sense. That's the one thing you could say about the original is like, okay, well, the guy died in there, but all of a sudden, somebody bleeds on the floor and here he comes. Like, okay. So, but I mean, I guess they had to do it somehow, and it follows the book, so that's cool. Yeah, Shane, yes, I am talking about the Hellbound Heart. Yeah, I think, speaking of the mood, I think that's what the new one was kind of lacking for a lot of it. I mean, it got close in parts, and I tried to remove myself from the original when watching the remake, because it's like, the remake, because it is one of my favorite movies, and it does have such a unique tone. I was trying to think, okay, if this was a brand new movie, and I was watching this with no idea, like I don't have any backstory or anything, this is like a whole new thing, would I enjoy this? And I thought that parts of it I would, and other parts of it I would not. For example, the problem I think with the new one is that it doesn't follow the lore. And if it's a quote unquote reimagining, okay, that's fine if you want to screw with the story and all that. Pinhead's a woman now instead of a man, and that probably goes along. Like, one of the underlying themes in the Hellbound Heart is sexuality and sensuality. That's like a huge running theme, and you see that in the movie. Like, Frank, basically bones everything that moves, and but the problem is that, like with the box, basically, like the whole way that the Cenobites are summoned through the box is through desire. It's not just, oh, I cut myself, oh, now we're gonna take you. Like, I hated that part of it. It's like that just takes away like the major plot point. Then it's just like, oh, well, these demons come because you cut yourself on a Rubik's cube. Like, that's not cool. It's these completely innocent people get screwed.
That is a lot of where the new one falls apart for me. I think they try to do a better job of explaining the lore, and they fail at it. So it's like, why even bother? Like, every time they tried to outline like what was going on and why, it just made no sense. And it just left me more confused. Where it would have been better if they just left it unexplained. Like the original doesn't really explain it. The book probably does a much better job, but the movie doesn't really. It's a little weird. You see people doing stuff, and you just go, huh, okay, good enough. And as I understand it, don't the later movies actually do a better job of digging into it?
I haven't got through many of those in their entirety because they're not very good. So I might be missing some of the lore. I know. Like I think it's the fourth one, kind of.
But
like,
even as far as 2, doesn't 2 go into it a little bit more at least?
I mean, a little bit, but it's basically set in hell, whereas the first one is in our world.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the whole thing that makes the concept interesting is that it's, greed and desire is what opens the box, and they totally remove that. So it's like, okay, so it then where's the fun in that? And then it's just another bad guy, evil demon thing. I mean, I guess you could say that it's there in that Roland Voight guy. Because he, but then even that, like when I first saw the damn box and it's in this weird shape, I'm like, what the hell is that?
Oh yeah, it's like a shape-shifting box now. That was
Yeah,
totally weird.
I'm like, God damn it! Like, and maybe I missed something.
Oh damn it! It's in javelin configuration.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's again, I don't know all the lore, so if I'm talking out my ass, somebody feel free to correct me on this. But the box, Le Marchand's box, it's the lament configuration. Okay, that's what it's called in the book and everything. Well, okay, so now in this reimagining, it's the lament configuration. What if there are other configurations? Well, why? I couldn't understand the whole life, lament, all this. Like, there's 6 different things or something. I'm like, what the hell is that? And then to the point where the guy at the end, he's like, just take this away. She's like, you don't want our gift? And then they make him like a super bad guy. Why? Why? Like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, and that line of like, she rattles off like the 6 things, and it's like, you know where this is going. And me in the audience, I'm like, no, I don't. You're talking nonsense.
Yeah. It's like he's
what does resurrection have to do with all that crap you just rattled off? Nothing.
Yeah.
That's what.
Yeah. And then the whole he's like the evil angel of retribution at the end. I'm like, what the F is that? Like, I mean, is it kind of, I guess, like, is that something like a homage or a redo of the doctor from the second Hellraiser movie where he becomes a Cenobite? Like, I don't know, but
it could be. Yeah, his whole role and everything was kind of weird too. I will say though, does it count as gore if something is healing instead of getting torn apart?
I'm so glad you brought that up. That looked badass, didn't it?
That was impressive. Yes.
That was cool as hell. That was really, really cool.
I really wish, like, anytime anyone does a healing effect in any movie, that's what it would look like.
Yeah.
Instead of the whole, like, there's a wound, and then it just, well, we're going to fade out the opacity layer on the gore, and there's just going to be skin underneath. Like, no, I want to see that shit, like, knitting together and bones crackling and falling into place. And
yep.
Yeah, man, that was good.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, the gore was good in this, man. I mean, when they had, like, the skin peeling off from the razor wire and all that crap and, things like that. They did have a body just rip apart in chunks. They, showed that pretty graphically like they did at the end of the first one. And I have to admit, I kept waiting for the callback, but I figured maybe people would find this offensive, but I just wanted, like, one of the people just going, Jesus wept. Like, just to have that throwback in there. So,
and that line makes no sense even in the original, but I'm okay with it because it's just creepy.
Well, it was that was in the book, and then you can't, if you're looking, I guess you could see it in the movie, but especially reading the book, he's trying to, like, lick his lips to be, like, all gross, like to be like a pervert, and it's kind of like a Frank thing. So, so Shane says, in this day and age of CGI and special effects, the Cenobites were weak. Yeah, I have to say, man, I kind of agree with you, and you know why I think that is? They weren't glistening enough. Like it was like, I mean, they did a good job because in the book it describes that they're all mutilated in different ways in different places and stuff like that. But, like, the skin and stuff that's peeled away, it doesn't look like it's freshly bloody or anything. It looked like it already dried out. So it looks like rubber. It looks like rubber to me.
Yeah, I was really confused and disappointed by that stuff, actually. They just look too clean and in some cases just plain abstract to where it's not disturbing anymore. Like I think
Yeah.
the original did a way better job of making it look like real people that had been disfigured, whereas these, I'm like, okay, so the one's got like a Handmaid's Tale kind of thing, visor thing going on, but maybe that's just corporate synergy with Hulu. I don't know. But I'm like, where did that skin come from? Is that like the skin from the back of her head pulled forward? I'm not really clear.
Yes, I was
like the way they were all like
thing.
vivisected was just it's just like, I don't think skin could do that. I don't think there's enough skin to do like it. I spent so much time trying to figure out like why and what happened and what are the little gold medallions that are in them in certain places. Like it took me out of it. Like it's it. I was just like, okay, I'm looking at this stuff and it's so weird. I'm like, I got to know more about it, and you don't find out any more about it. So they look more alien than disfigured humans to me.
Yes, I agree. And man, so our buddy Chris Mocked, when he does his live show Mocktails from the Cantina, he always has a drinking word. And I swear ours tonight would be vivisected. I challenge anybody to go find another podcast where the word vivisected has been used. That was a damn good word. Wow, look at that. Yeah, I don't. I think those could have been done better. I mean, they were cool. The dude that was like basically
random.
You think?
Like all the disfigurations in the original Hellraiser, they all have something to do with like the person's life before they became a Cenobite. And in this one, it's just like, we feel like tearing you apart in this way. Like I don't like Pinhead had something to do with like was it acupuncture or something, like that's why Pinhead had needles in his face. and
he was a therapist.
Oh, okay. And didn't like each of the Cenobites represent like one of the 7 deadly sins or something like that?
That I don't
thought
know.
It was something to do with that. It was some sort of tie-in. Like that's why you had like, was it Chatterbox, who was like, always eating everything. You had like Butterball was the fat guy. That was probably gluttony on display. Like they kind of followed a theme, and this one was just like another anonymous person cut apart in another anonymous way.
Well, see, in the novel it just says they were each mutilated in a weird way. So they didn't specifically, well, this guy's mutilated like this because of so that is open to interpretation. So I don't mind that they did that. I think it's the effect. I was wondering the same thing you were about the chick that looks like she's got the hat. I'm like, okay, is that like her scalp like peeled away? Like I couldn't quite. I would assume that that's what it would be. Either that or it's just like a sun hat from hell. Like maybe she's got sensitive skin down there and she just even
it's a little sunbonnet.
Even Cenobites have to take care of their skin. Leanna Santo, man, what's up, Leanna? Good to see you. She says new Hellraiser was not bad at all for being the 11th sequel. 1 through 3, then 11. The rest were unwatchable. Have you seen all of them? No, actually, we talked about this a second ago. I have seen 1 through 3. Third one I always remember for the guy with the CD in his head. That was so stupid. I watched like part of 4. And then I did watch like the opening scene of one of the other ones, and then it got stupid 5 minutes later. I was like, well, turning this off. So I'm pretty much on I read that they were so bad that like don't even bother. So, Joseph Frank, good to see you, man. There is a way, AJ. Remember, I have eternity to know your flesh. Pinhead will find a way. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is that it's like, that's the other thing about the Cenobites is like the new Pinhead wasn't menacing at all.
No.
She was almost like a narrator.
They moved slowly, like they were just slow, not like they were creepy.
Well, that one moved fast once it got in the house. So there was that.
Just the one. But then, in the main climax of the movie, after like she's already like trapped in the gate, then like all the rest are just like creeping slowly down the hall. I'm like, you could just run away. Like, there's nothing preventing these people from just outrunning the Cenobites.
Well,
they're not trapped. They're just like, I'm so scared I couldn't possibly move. Like, oh my God.
I playing devil's advocate, a lot of the time when that happened, the person they're chasing was like really injured. So at least there's that aspect of it. Like, okay, that person just, the dude basically had half his bicep eaten, and the other guy was like, got all tore up and everything. And Yeah, I
You
don't
know the
know,
other
man.
problem is, as long as we're talking about the characters in the new one, you know the other problem I had, as I just make this a giant bitch fest. Every character was shitty. Like I wasn't rooting for anybody.
Really?
Okay, so like Riley, for example, the main character. She's a junkie who relapses. So the boyfriend looks like a piece of shit right off the bat, right? Because he's like, "Hey, I know you're sober, but you want a flask? Or hey, maybe you want to get fucked up with me again."
Yeah.
Like, so he's terrible, and we're like kind of feeling for her, but then she keeps doing shitty things too. So we're like, okay, well you suck now too. So I don't really like empathize with her at all. I don't want her to survive. I just want to see how cleverly she can die, really. And
Yep.
the boyfriend Trevor is like, he's shitty right off the bat. So I don't feel bad when his deal goes sour. And so then you've got, who is really like good in this movie? Her brother.
Her brother was good, and then that Colin guy. And I guess
No.
I get.
Colin was annoying, and didn't he like shit on her too for relapsing?
Not really. I mean, see, I'm a little biased. When I think of horror movies with characters where I'm like, will you just die in the worst way possible? I always think of the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street. That movie was absolutely putrid, shitty garbage, and every character in that movie, I'm like, good, you died.
Yeah.
Freddy Krueger might as well be Captain America to me in that movie. Like seriously, I don't give a crap if he was like a child molester. Like I hated the character so bad I was rooting for a child molester. What does that tell you? Ugh.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
movie sucked. So yeah, I mean I thought the brother was cool. Like he was trying to keep her on the straight and narrow, and but
I
again,
wasn't even clear if that was her brother at first. Like he kept on dropping "I love you" at weird, creepy times. I'm like, so is this like a throuple situation, or like it didn't come
another
across
one.
as like a familial bond? Like if we're just talking, like if you got problems in your life and we're just talking, and I just lose my words for a second, go, "I love you." Like that's not the way a sibling talks to a sibling. It was just so confusing. I'm like, I don't know what these people are doing, but it ain't right. Whatever it is, it's just four people in an apartment. I don't know who lives there and who doesn't. Who's related to who's just a friend. Obviously, we got a gay couple in there. I don't know if they live there or they're just like hanging out for the night. It was just weird. The whole thing was weird until the Cenobites actually show up and stuff started happening. I was just lost. Also,
Yeah.
okay, I'm just on a roll. I'm just gonna keep going.
go for it.
Okay, so let me get this straight, and I even make a joke about this in the movie. So they break into a building that has one shipping container in it, that has one box in it, that has the box in it. What the hell is that?
Well, no, the lawyer woman said that she put it there to like keep it away from,
Did she buy the whole warehouse?
Well, she said that. So she said in like the nursing home that she got Roland Voigt's estate all taken care of. Roland Voigt had hired that Trevor dude. We find out, so that's how they knew the box was there. So at least they did
also
say
a good swing of a hammer will break a safe lock too.
Well,
Because no safe designer has ever thought they might have a hammer.
well, I have to admit, yeah, I was like, boy, she couldn't have bought something a little better, like buy a master lock or something. Like what the hell? So yeah, I mean, so that part I kind of get, but
So with you, I like the setup of the 87 version better. It doesn't bother trying to explain itself very well, and I think that actually plays to its advantage.
yeah, it's just more direct. It's more the 87 one's more in your face. Like it's like you can't get away. Like you're stuck in that house. You're just stuck there. Like so it's like a car crash. You can't You can't stop watching. You can't look away from, and it creates that unease. Even Julia is having sex with the husband, and then Frank is standing behind her, like carving a rat in half with a switchblade. It's like, I mean, this is some sick stuff.
Yeah.
So it's, I mean,
Yeah.
it's like it's just, man. And I think
you were
because
saying that no one innocent got harassed in the first movie, right?
no,
Like you were saying in the
Not
new
by-
one, anyone bleeds on the box, they're done for.
yeah, but I mean, in the original, that didn't.
What did Christy do?
Kirsty, it was basically like she opened the box by accident.
Yeah, there was no desire there. It was just an accident, and yet they're all after her. I thought you said it had to be like a desire to open it.
You can open. Well, okay. So having the box and all that stuff is based on, having the box, you acquire it because it's like supposedly this gateway to the ultimate, your ultimate desires, like the ultimate pleasure, whatever. So she happened to have the box, and they figure, okay, she opened it because she wanted the box, so she's got this desire, and but she didn't. And the way she gets out of it, as you know, is she says, well, wait a minute, like, I know somebody that escaped you, and I can give him back. So, so that's, she gets Frank to admit, that he's back in the world of the living.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how, she avoids that.
Is that butt face thing that hangs from the ceiling a Cenobite?
The butt face, like the worm thing that comes down the hall in the first one? That's called the engineer.
Yeah, I call it butt face. Okay.
It's
It
called
looks
the
like
engineer.
its face is where its butt should be, so I call it butt face.
Yeah. So Joseph Friend says, in the first film, the desire was to locate Frank. What happened to him? Like, I don't know. I don't think the desire was to locate Frank. I mean, the desire in the first one, Joe, was Frank's. I mean, he got it to, reach the ultimate heights of pleasure. So, that was that one.
When banging strange and choking the shit out of your brother's wife isn't enough, then you got to up the ante, I guess.
You get Le Marchand's box, yeah. So Leanna explains
when you had
it.
every other box, you might as well.
Exactly. Who's this Le Marchand? How can I? Anyway, so Leanna says the book much more accurately describes the Cenobites. They're not supposed to be flashy. They're in the books dressed in their own torn bodies of flesh, so it will not necessarily dull as to be it. Leanna, you're typing messed up. So it will not be necessarily dull as described, but it was depicted well if you know the stories. I get what you're saying, Leanna. Like, I guess you could say that's close to the books, but the problem is it looked rubber. There wasn't enough, like, there wasn't like fluid to make it look real. It looked dried out, so it looked, like AJ said, like rubber. So, man. Kale, man, I do not understand Hellraiser at all. You guys are making it sound like a real weird trip. Kale, start with the one in 87. Basically, if you open the box, the Cenobites come out, and they tear you apart. So that's like the whole story. And people seek out the box because it gives them their ultimate desire, the outer limits of pleasure and stuff like that. So that's the whole thing. And then basically you're unleashing creatures from hell. And the whole premise is like, well, you think the limits of, experience, but you don't.
Sensation, yeah.
Yeah, sensation. So but you don't. That's one of the things that they did in this new one with Roland Voight. It took me to the second viewing to finally catch the line about nerve. I was like, what are these like red ropes going through him? And then when he mentioned it's his nerves, I was like, oh my God. Okay, now that's kind of cool. It's like, it's a weird way to do it. Like, here's this giant metal turny thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. But then once he said, okay, the stuff going through it is his nerves, I'm like, okay. All right, that makes more sense. So that was kind of cool.
Thank you for clarifying. Clarifying, because I did not get that.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks painful as shit, but... By the way, that was the one really... Can you imagine like being stuck with that damn thing? I love the fact that he apparently tailored everything around it, though. Like he was still able to wear a suit and a jacket with this thing like sticking right through him. I was like... What did he do? Just like go to his closet and just like cut rectangles out of like everything he owned in the front and the back? Like, Jesus. But yeah, so he gets all that stuff taken out, and then like 10 seconds later, this giant fucking hook comes out of the sky and just like impales them. I'm like, well, that healing didn't last very long.
Yeah, yeah. That's one of the things I wondered about. Is like, it's like, I don't want your gift anymore. Just take it back. And then, well, we'll give you the Leviathan config. We'll give you like, wait a minute, what? What is that? Like, what is this? Okay, we'll give you something else. Like, what is like, is the box now like a goddamn Burger King? Have it your way? Like, what, did I miss something? No
returns, exchanges only. That's the rule.
Yeah, it's like, what? Why?
We can give you store credit, but that's all.
Yeah. So I did not understand the ending in that respect, and I thought the ending of the new one was really unbelievably stupid. Oh, you have chosen the lament configuration. You know, you choose to live. So basically, everything she did was absolutely for fucking nothing. Nothing. She doesn't get her brother back. Everybody's still all effed up. The people that are dead. So the whole thing was pointless.
That I actually got. I understood that because, you know, I feel like we could make a list of like horror movies that don't end well for anyone. Like one of the ones that always stands out to me is The Hills Have Eyes, where like the daughter survives after she's been raped by mutants, watched her whole family get slaughtered, and she's stuck out in the middle of a desert with no food, no water, no way to reach help.
Yeah.
You should have just died. Your life is over. So I feel like this is the same thing. Like she has to live with all this crap that she has just witnessed. So that is her penance. That is her punishment.
Yeah.
And that's the lament configuration, is just carrying all that crap around with her for the rest of her life.
Have you ever seen the movie Wolf Creek?
No.
Damn. I was just thinking.
Really, no.
Not really, no. When you mentioned The Hills Have Eyes, I was like, you know, it would be kind of funny. Have her out in the middle of the desert, like no food, no water. At the end of that one, then all of a sudden the guy from Wolf Creek comes along like, hey, yo. Good eye. And then she goes from being in The Hills Have Eyes, then she's the victim in Wolf Creek. Like, she's just the most unlucky person ever. Like Shane says the Burger King is scarier than the new Cenobites.
Yeah.
And by the way, Kale, it's Cenobite with a C, not an X. Yes, Joseph Friend, Wolf Creek. Yes, I watched that movie. It was a long time ago, but it did have that, what do you call it, like a not a head on a stick, but he basically like did something with one of the victims. Like he gets her in his garage. He has this huge like hunting knife, and he takes it at the base of, like right below the base of her neck, and just jams it up there. So she's alive, but it paralyzes her. So it's basically she's only got sensation from the neck up. He calls it like bump on a stick or rock on it, something like that. And it's like, oh my God. I'm like, ooh boy, that's pretty dark. So yeah, Wolf Creek.
Damn.
At least I didn't watch the second one, Joe. So yeah, the ending to this one just kind of sucked. At least with the original, it's like, okay, you know, Kirsty lives. So at least like, you know, the quote unquote heroine comes out of it. So there's something there. Instead of, okay, well, you know, Roland Voight gets to go do other stuff. The Cenobites are just like, it wasn't Kung Pao. Okay. Like, yeah. You know, he just wants to do, well, I don't want this. I'll do something else. Like, okay, we'll give you the lament, like the Leviathan configuration. What is that? And then Riley just like, you're going to live with a life of regret. Okay, we'll see you later. Like, what the hell is that?
Yeah. It was a wet fart of an ending for sure.
Yeah. It's not good.
Was the house in the middle of a giant maze or something too? Because when they showed whatever, it was like a Star Destroyer just coming in nose first from the skies. I don't know what the hell that was.
That was Leviathan.
So in that overhead shot, like they show the house in the middle of the frame, and it's nothing but maze work as far as the eye can see in any direction. What the hell was that?
Well, it's okay. So as he said in the movie, and this is another thing that I did not like about it. He says like at the end, the Cenobites is like, you know, I didn't I didn't build a refuge or something. He said I built a cage. So he's trying to trap the Cenobites. And I'm going, all right, what the hell is that? Like they're minions from hell, but they can't get through a freaking fence? Seriously? Like what the hell is that? And, I mean, come on, dude. Like they got, excuse me, they got hooks on chains that they use all the time. They can't use one of those, a bunch of those. Like they've got like an F-250 over there, like tow the thing, just rip the damn walls off. What the hell is that?
I couldn't possibly.
We will leave your house alone. Like, okay, they have manners now. Alrighty,
Yeah.
Who knew? Like, yeah, I didn't like that either. It's like son of a bitch. So that was kind of weird, and yeah, he basically wanted to trap the Cenobites because he said he wasn't going to let them go until he had an audience with their god. You know, because that was in that scrapbook that Riley found. It said, audience with God or whatever. So,
it just feels like they jumped ahead. Like they could have done a more faithful rework of the original Hellraiser first. We don't need the lore and the big backstory. It could have just been the Cenobites showing up and leave some mystery, and then you could have brought the stuff in later. It just felt like the Cenobites really didn't have a lot of time on screen to do anything really menacing, except for, okay, they like their razor wires, and sometimes it's a hook and a chain, but like you were saying, Pinhead like is more of a narrator than a threat. Like she just kind of stands there and talks a little bit and says things matter-of-factly. It's nothing like the original.
Yeah, like I said, it's she's like a narrator.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's really nothing there. Yeah, Joe, no one escapes us. Is it because of that chain link fence you built outside? No. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I honestly, this was better than I had hoped. It was better on a rewatch. I just think it takes some really important parts of the lore out of it, which ruins it for me.
By the way, who do you think got a more raw deal at the end of the new one? Do you think it was Riley with the lament configuration, or do you think it was Colin? Because to my recollection, Colin didn't do anything to deserve getting almost killed, what, twice? 3 times?
Well, again, it was the...
Like he got stabbed by... He got stabbed. He got razor wired once or twice. Like, Jesus, man. That dude had it rough. Nothing happened to Riley.
And again, that's the stupid thing where, the box caught you, you're marked. Like, no. Like, what the hell is that? I mean, that right there is what... That alone... That is like the one... If you want to say they're equal except for one thing that would tip the scales either way, that would be it for me. Like, there's no... That completely takes the mystery away from the box.
It's like the deadliest game of tag ever.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
oh, you got poked. Now you're dead.
Yeah, I didn't like that. It was just dumb. Because any poor idiot could just do that, and oh damn, you could have like a nun, like the most pure person in the world, pick up the box by accident. What is this? Oh, I got cut, and then all of a sudden she's getting hooks and chains and everything. Like that. I didn't like that. It wasn't cool.
Yeah, the Cenobites are now the embodiment of tetanus.
What if the box actually was the tetanus shot? And it's really just protecting them from getting tetanus from the hooks. Like the hooks are actually infected and shit. They can't afford new hooks, so they're all rusty. And so they're like, all right, so the box is actually the tetanus shot.
Maybe it's the vaccine to an anti-vaxxer.
Oh. See, we could have written a Hellraiser movie. You know what?
Actually,
you know what would be
these Cenobites are sponsored by Pfizer. That's what it is.
That was a corporate sponsor for Hulu to make this movie. You know what would be awesome is to have like I'm gonna write a Hellraiser where all the characters of that stupid Nightmare on Elm Street movie are in there, and basically one picks up the box. They're all in a circle hanging out. And the one picks up the box and goes, "What's this?" and hits it the wrong way, and the knife comes out. He goes, "Ow!" and throws it like that, and somebody else tries to catch it, and they get "Ow!" and basically just goes around, so they all get poked, and then it's just like an hour and a half of what the Cenobites would do to them.
It's like a game of hot potato, like the
Yeah.
shittiest game of hot potato ever.
Yeah, and then it's just an hour and a half of those awful characters getting eviscerated, or what was the word? Vivisected.
That's another good one. Yeah.
I-
Eviscerated is good though. Come on.
Yeah, it's like just oh man.
I'll drink to that. By the way, first pumpkin beer of the year.
First, wow, we're almost to Halloween. 2 weeks away or something
It's
like that.
October. I had to start sometime.
I'm a big fan of pumpkin beer. I've had several. So, yeah, I mean, I definitely prefer the first one. I wasn't expecting to like this new one more, but I also wasn't expecting it to kind of neuter the lore. And I think that's, again, it's better than I thought it was going to be. I mean, it totally craps all over that Nightmare on Elm Street remake. I actually liked the Friday the 13th remake from what was that? 2007, 8, 9, something like that. I actually didn't
Jason the Bow Hunter.
I didn't mind it. I mean, it was gory, and it was kind of weird that they gave him like an underground lair. That was like, okay. But I didn't hate it. I thought it was, it's awesome deaths in it and everything. So, the Rob Zombie Halloweens, which we'll be talking about in our next episode, I really, really liked.
Yes.
So this one could have been a lot worse, but I think the problem is when you take away the vibe and the mood of the original and also some of the main plot points, you're left with just kind of a movie. And especially with an ending where nothing happened, where the whole thing was pointless.
Yeah, and not a good movie. Like I texted you as I was trying to watch it. I'm like, I'm lost. I don't understand what the hell is going on in this movie. They're not telling the story in a way that I can follow. So forget the effects and, it's a remake and I don't like remakes. It's just not a well-made movie. I'm usually not that much of a cinema snob, but if I get lost because you're not explaining things and connecting one scene to the next, then that's a problem. And I feel like they were more hung up on trying to make things look cool than making a story that was cohesive.
Yeah, and I think what's strange to me about it.
By the way, is that audio coming through?
Oh yeah, that's.
I got my own horror movie coming over here. It's called "My Cat Wanting Into the Office" while we're podcasting.
That's okay. Mine was trying to get out. Yeah, I think that the problem is that the two storylines are kind of. I have to watch it again because I'm sure I missed some stuff. But I think that the problem that I have with it is that I get the Roland Voight thing, like, okay, well, in order to get that, what is this?
You could thank Joseph Wren for this one. He just texted this over.
Nice meme, Joseph Wren with
Love
the
the
meme of
instant
Pinhead.
memes, yeah.
Yep. No one escapes us. I built a fence. That is fantastic. Hey, quit clicking the button. Yeah, now I forget my
Wish we had a
point.
producer on this show.
I know. Yeah, there I was. Okay, so I just think the two plots I have to watch and see how they kind of intertwine again. Because obviously the Roland Voight thing is, well, he has to sacrifice souls in order to get the box to the configuration where he can get the crap, that thing out of himself that's, yanking his nerves every couple seconds. Okay, so there's that. So he hires Trevor. But then, did he want his girlfriend to be a part of that and her and her friends to be the souls? Like what, but then Riley, she wants her brother back, but okay, I don't, the way that those, intertwine hasn't really clicked with me yet, I think.
Yeah.
So I think we're kind of on the same page there. But I will say it was better than I thought it would be. It was definitely better than I thought it would be. So I'll give it
It's
that.
an interesting swing at the plate for them too, because obviously with an ending like that, they're leaving themselves wide open for a follow-up if this one does well. I don't want to see it, but it might happen. You never know.
I would watch it just to see what the hell they're doing with with Roland Voight. Like, is he going to be, like I said, like the Doctor in the second one, or is this some new thing?
Give me a little bit of lore on the originals then. So, do each of the Cenobites have like a different power or weapon of choice or something, or are they all just using hooks and chains? They just look different.
I mean, for the most part, I'd say it's just the hooks and chains. But, they see, that's the other thing is like they have other ways to, to make people suffer. They just haven't shown a lot of them. Like you said, in this new one, they've got razor wire and hooks and chains. And I wonder if, they kind of stuck to that motif because they didn't want to stray too far from it. Like, oh, well, now here's, needles and here's all this other stuff. Like, maybe they thought that if they went too far with it, it would get too close to the campiness of like a Freddy Krueger death, maybe.
I don't know if you're just gonna be like, oh, you can sense so much more. Well, okay, you got two things. Is there more than that, or are we done? Like, I want more stuff.
Yeah. Well, there was a guy that was into, into like music or something like that. In the third one, he got a CD stuck in his head or something, and that guy came on the screen. It was like, what the hell? There was a guy that he was like he had a video camera or something, and that became like it got stuck in his head or some crap like that. I mean, it was just like really.
Oh yeah, there gets to be some awful ones for sure.
Yeah, it was weird, man. So that was, but. So what's your overall take? Because you were not nearly as familiar with the original as I was. So this is almost kind of coming in very fresh for you. So how would you compare the two, and where would you say, if you had a preference, which one would it be?
Well, it's definitely the original, because at least I could follow what the hell was going on for the most part, despite not knowing what country it took place in. But like I said at the beginning of the show, I don't think the gulf between them is as wide as we thought. Like, we put the original up on this pedestal of greatness, and actually in, watching it with fresh eyes, I'm like, this really isn't that good either. It's just kind of in the pantheon of 80s horror, so it kind of goes with the territory. But it's not the great work of cinema that, we thought it was compared to the new one. I feel like maybe the new one is on par with it. It's just it doesn't have any nostalgia for us whatsoever, so we're giving it no breaks.
It doesn't have any personality, I think. I think it doesn't have any
Also
personality compared to the first one. And I think what I like about the first
Also
one
no
is
boobs.
that true. Well, they can't show that stuff anymore. I
The
think
boobs in the first one were incidental. They didn't really matter, and they weren't that good.
it was an accident, and like you said, they ran out of film. They couldn't do multiple takes. So, it's obviously the original for me because it is one of my favorite horror movies. That being said, the remake was better than I thought it would be. I just think there's always been something cool about the original, and I think that's because, when I was a kid, I remember that I saw Hellraiser 2 first. We were at see if you remember this name, Matt Gambino's house over on the other side of Strongsville where we grew up, and it was me and like 5 or 6 of my friends having like a birthday party, like pizza party, whatever. And man, we were like 12 or something, 11, and the parents actually let us watch Hellraiser 2. And I remember thinking, oh my God, there's people bleeding everywhere. Like, this is so cool, because I had heard about, Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th and these other things. And I'm thinking horror movie. And I had seen like copies of Fangoria magazine with just blood and guts everywhere. And I go watch these famous horror movies, and none of that's in there. I'm like, well, where is all this? Like, I want to see that. Well, then I see Hellraiser 2, and there's blood everywhere. I'm like, oh, okay, now we're talking. And so I think, when I saw the original Hellraiser, I loved the story of it. Again, how it's just confined in this house, like it's so claustrophobic, and it is brutal. There's no wondering what happened. It's they didn't just show the hooks go into the guy; they showed it ripping him apart. It was like, it was cool. So it was really gross, and it was.
Is it the second one then that actually shows the guy's skin getting ripped off? Because in this one, he just gets ripped to pieces, wholesale.
I'm trying to. What part are you talking about?
I swear there's a shot in one of the original Hellraisers where, the hooks come out and only his skin gets pulled off. He doesn't get ripped to shreds.
In the second one, like that happens to Julia when she's down in hell, like her skin gets pulled off again.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's a couple different times where it kind of happens, but...
That's fine for Julia being British, though, because, the British love getting pulled off.
Excellent terminology. But yeah, I think the first one just, and yeah, it's a nostalgia thing, but I think it's also, when I think of a horror movie, I want it to be brutal and I want it to be difficult to watch, and of all of the classic horror movie villains, you got Freddy Krueger and Michael Myers and Jason, and you got Pinhead. Like, Pinhead is the one you're like, okay, that guy, that's it, and it's not supernatural. It's not, where the hell does Freddy come from? Where the hell did Michael Myers come? It's no, this guy's from hell. Like, how are you going to defeat this guy? Yeah. So I really like it, and it's always been a really entertaining movie for me, even though it's campy, and as you said, like, sometimes the gore may look a little 80s-ish. Yeah, I just love the vibe of it. If I want to watch a horror movie, that's the kind of vibe I'm looking for. And the new one just didn't have it. It was like a neutered version of Hellraiser, and it removed some of the important plot points that make it Hellraiser. So that's where I stand. Ah!
Oh, Leanna. Here we go.
Look at this. Leanna says, Billy and I are talking about doing Julia and Frank for a con. Oh, my God. Well, so are you just going to go... Are you just going to get dressed up nicely? Yeah, just dress up, not gory at all. People will never know who the hell they are. What are you? We're Julie and Frank. You're just a dude in a tank top and a woman in a blouse. What are you doing?
I was going to say they're just going to bone on the floor.
Right. Throw a wedding dress down and have at it.
Right. To her point, though, I do have a new side project, and that is apparently to chew my way slowly through the Hellraiser sequels. I've got to see how bad these things are. It's going to take me a long time. We might have to revisit this next October by the time I get through them. But
we could do movie reviews. We could do movie reviews and just say, okay, we're going to watch Hellraiser 5 this time, and just come in and be like, "Jeez, oh Pete."
Ooh, yeah. I mean, like I was telling you on the phone, I think Amazon Prime, at least they have access to all of them, and I think they might all be free right now. I was able to watch the original for free, which was cool.
Yeah, I did. I thought I own it somewhere, and I don't.
Yeah,
I thought I had it.
This
in my
show
Amazon
costs
Prime,
$0 of show prep, so I like that.
Oh, you're getting called out by Joe. He said Trek AF. Oh, wait, not that side project. Busted.
I can have other hobbies, damn it. And by the way, Joe, you haven't responded to my texts.
Oh, a little bit of a throwdown on the Nerf Herder Council. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, man. So that'll just about do it for this one. We'll be back in 2 weeks talking about the Rob Zombie Halloween movies. And if we can get our special guest, get her computer all working properly so she looks and sounds good on the computer, because she always looks good because she's a sweetheart. But my stepdaughter, Drew, is going to jump on because she loves those movies like I do. And so we're going to dig into why the Rob Zombie Halloween movies are kick-ass, and if you don't like them, you are wrong. So our typical one-sided attitude here on the Nerf Herder Council. But so, yeah, that's going to close up shop. Again, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. We are live right here on Facebook and YouTube every other Wednesday at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Go ahead and click that like button, click that subscribe button, and, of course, Smash that notification bell so that you're notified every time we go live. I got it right again, AJ. How about that? So, yeah, we'll be back right here. The date will be Wednesday, October 26th at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we will be digging into the Rob Zombie Halloween films, both 1 and 2. So if you'd like to jump in the chat, give us your thoughts, feel free. Go ahead and watch the movies. Let us know what you think of them, good or bad. And AJ, this was fun. I appreciate you letting me do this because I'm a huge Hellraiser fan, so it was fun having to, air quotes, having to watch Hellraiser for the show. So it was cool, man. So.
Yep. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a new episode of Andor to watch.
I have to do the same. So, all right, well, that's going to do it for us, guys. Appreciate y'all very much. Joseph Wren, Leanna, Kale, Shane O'Mac, appreciate you guys. Good to see you, Mimar, and we'll see you right here in 2 weeks. Till next time, I'm your host, JT at Dog Pound Jedi. He is AJ.
At Drake Adams 579.
And we will see you next time.